Hi everybody, it's Toy Soldiers here, and Street Fighter was just released, and along with it, I'm sure everyone is digging through all the Street Fighter cards, trying to build the strongest deck they possibly can. But the first thing that I love to do when I get a new set in my hands is I like to build the funnest deck I can come up with. I just like to build wacky, fun things. I like to try to take the characters and build something that encompasses the character's original design, I guess. And I really just like to play around with a lot of the cards that they have, just so I can really get a good feel for the set before I go digging into anything competitive. So the very first thing I did when I got home with any Street Fighter was I put Balrog together, because I think they designed this character really, really well based on what this character is and represents in the game, where he has this option where he can either be rushing in and smashing you repeatedly with these really quick punches, or he can be wailing on you with these really slow, heavy punches, and you kind of have this option of playing both of them. Then he even has an ability to let him get that last smash in at the end of a big chain, and I really love that appeal of him. And then when I found out on top of it that he has the ability to play the Ulrich stuff, man, I was absolutely sold. So I just set out to work right away. I actually got a request for this deck just to kind of go over some of my decision-making processes when I'm coming up with the deck. So we're going to cover basically that whole angle as I go over this deck. So my plan for Balrog in this was to try to really encompass that mix-up strategy where you go between speed or damage, and where you can really choose just, try to get that idea of just pummeling someone into submission and making them unable to deal with that situation. Like I'll get into the deck. You'll see what I mean. If you've played Street Fighter 2, you know what I mean. He was annoying, but let's get into the deck. The first thing I want to cover is the spam foundations. So because we're Balrog and we want to be playing long chains, we're running 2 copies of Chasing the Fight Money. Beautiful low block. There's tons of really good +2 blocks in the Street Fighter set. This card, we're primarily running it so that our opponent can't run modifiers on us that's going to clog us up and stop us from doing the things that we want to do. And again, that's really all this card's doing, is just preventing card clog. We're running 4 copies of Bridging the Races because this thing's a majestic pump for anything that does a kick, punch, or slam. Self-readies. This thing's gorgeous. If you don't know what it does by now, play the game a little bit more. But it's incredible. Standard stable card for anything that's running kick, punch, slams on those symbols. We are running the Balanced Fighter engine, so we're running 4 designed for combat. It helps us dig for blocks when we need blocks, helps us dig for attacks when we need attacks. It matches the gorgeous +2 blocks that we're seeing all over the place nowadays. We're really just jumping on that bandwagon. Speaking of beautiful +2 blocks, we're running the 4 over the top for spams as well. The non-progressive for block is really great, especially again on the +2 block. And if we really, really need to, and we're not worried about comboing off our punches, if we're ending off with something strong, then we can use this card also to check top deck to make sure we can push out extra cards. In any deck that wants to play early, wants to play fast, and needs resources, I love running Bounce and Roll. I cover this in lots of other videos. I like to use this thing, obviously, to commit cards for effects or to pass checks, play my Bounce and Rolls. It substitutes out, and then I can push further. It combos really well with Over the Top, obviously, because you can net some pretty easy resources that way, but this card's great. It also helps on the defensive side if you manage to get off a pretty decent attack, where you can chip them a few times. You can play this thing, enhance with it to get the plus to your modifier based on your momentum ×2, and then you can use that to help you block something that might be otherwise too fast for you to handle. So Bounce Roll is great that way. Those are our spam. Obviously, as you notice, I'm just starting to count Bounce and Roll as a spam foundation, because that's really what I'm using it for. Balrog loves Balanced Fighter. If you notice, all of his effects minus your speed to increase damage of either your charge, combo, or punch attacks. Balanced Fighter, before the block step of an attack, any attack, you can return that attack to its printed speed. So these things are also kind of, they basically turn into pseudo +3 damage for Balrogs if you use them that way. And then again, it's defensive piece, and it combos off of Design for Combat. So one of the problems that Balrog has is he's throwing some really slow, clunky punches every once in a while, which leaves you pretty susceptible to reversal attack. So the 4 copies of Remembrance, that's pretty solid for this sort of a build. And then again, we have card draw, so we can use this thing either for committal, for the effect to get safe if we feel like we need to deal with reversal attacks. We can use it to commit for effects for other stuff in the deck, and then we can nuke it for the card draw or whatever else we're doing with it. So it's just a really good card. I mean, I'm surprised it doesn't get run more. Buffalo Strength, because this card is just free for days with Balrog. Just pump +3 damage to any of his attack lineup, and you get to draw free cards. It's really good. And then it has the destroy ability to prevent your checks from being modified as well. Just more of that security if you really need it. We're running 1 copy of Petty Theft because, you know, we're anti-draw. It's just a really good card. It's unique and sees very high value in running 1 copy. Now to get into really the heart of what I loved about this deck, which is 2 Victory Howl, 2 built for the tournament, and a card that I don't think sees nearly enough play anymore. Well, I guess it's pretty hard to get your hands on. 4 Flames Restored. This really starts to cover the whole part of Balrog where he's just trying to pummel into them and beat them into submission. I try to stay away from speed more so. You'll notice that the only things I really have in here are Bridging the Races, which is just really, really high value, and I'm running the Balance Fighter, which can reset my speed if I need it. But otherwise, I'm not really focusing on getting the speed of my attacks too high because I can rely on stunning them out. So built for the tournament is your attack with 2 or less speed gets stunned 1. So you can use Balrog's effects to lower the speed of your attacks down to 2. Give it the stun 1, then you can use Balance Fighter to push it back up after the fact. So that's really fun. Victory Howl, discard 1 momentum, your charge or slam attack is +2 damage. Everything here is a charge. And if you discard a charge or slam attack, your attack gets stun 1. So again, Victory Howl, it's just the continual onslaught and pummel of attacks will then net you more stun ability. And it also has a nice anti-stun effect built into it, which is really cool. And Flames Restored is just that nice explode for commit 2 foundations. It's that clutch push to stun out their board, which can really make a huge difference if you're going for a push turn with really high damage punches. Amazing, amazing cards. And then we're running 2 copies of Hired Muscle. This is just another utility card that's going to let me get speed if I don't have Balance Fighters online. Or the other great thing about Hired Muscle is it's going to let me put speed on punches even if I'm not putting damage on punches. So if we're running a card like Charging Turn Punch, you can use this card to push this thing up to 7 speed and keep it at 3 damage, which is really cool. It fits into that whole motif of either going with some really fast low damage punches that they can't deal with, or you render them unable to deal with any punches and then you smash them for really high damage. It's really cool. I really like that angle of Balrog where you can switch between whether he needs speed or whether he needs damage, and those a really fun kind of angle to work with. So I think Hired Muscle really encompasses that. Balrog really encompasses that. They did a really good job designing this character and making him really fun to build and to play with. So for the attack lineup, we went very vanilla Balrog. We went 4 of his punch, Charging Turn Punch, 4 dash uppercuts, 4 dash low smash, because this kit, all of it, 4 speed, 3 damage. So again, Hired Muscle can push them to 7 speed, 3 damage, or if they all combo off, you know, they're just all incredible. They all work really well with each other. They all can get pushed up to 1 speed, 6 damage on their own with Balrog. They're just, it's the bread and butter lineup, decent blocks on it. And then because I love the fact that he can run it, we're running 4 Smites. It's got that amazing combo ability where it can only be blocked by a printed block modifier of 3. Again, it helps Balrog get attacks through, which is great. Again, with the ability to put speed on things without adding Balrog's damage, and then this card can put its own damage on top of it. So you can get things up to 6 speed, 8 if you have Hired Muscle out, or if you start bridging it up, or however else you plan on doing it. It's just a really fun card to use. In the same line as Smite, we're running 2 copies of a name I'm not going to try to pronounce. It's ridiculous, but this card again fits into that motif of just pushing them to a point where they can't deal with things. If you're playing it as your 3rd attack, you're getting that your opponent has to discard a card for even more speed and damage, and you can discard a momentum for another card discard. So if you're already stunning them out and just denying them their access to the resources, then this card can really just put them in the tightest of spots. And if it's your 3rd, or if you can then push Balrog to pump out a 4th attack, that's a lot of damage that you can tack onto the end of a string. And unfortunately, that's the way that Balrog has to function, but it's really fun. It's a really fun thing to pull off on people. And then we're running 1 copy of Crazy Buffalo, and it kind of fits in the same situation as Thundering Torture, but this one uses more of its own natural speed to get that damage through, and it gives you the 1 more drop. It's a little bit easier to play, but it also has that natural damage pump, so it goes up to 10 damage right out of the gate. This deck, again, it was designed around the idea of just pushing pummeling punches. It's running lots of 4 copies, so it's maintaining a high stability for the plan that it has set in motion. I think the only one of is Petty Theft in here and Crazy Buffalo. Everything else, and even the tech pieces, 2 Hired Muscle, 2 Victory Howl, 2 Built for the tournaments. Because I want to see the cards that I want to see, and I want to see them often, because I want this deck to do what I designed it to do, and I want it to do it often. It's not a late game technical deck. It's not any of those kind of things. It's a deck designed to start doing what it wants to do right away, right out of the gate. Just start throwing punches, start landing punches, and just pummeling them into submission. And that's the Balrog Funzy deck right there. So try the deck out. It's super enjoyable. It's super great. I think they did a fantastic job with Balrog. I think they did a fantastic job with a lot of the Street Fighter characters in this set. They may not come out as the top tier of competitive decks right away, but for the time being, some of them are super, super fun to build, super, super fun to play, and you should definitely be building fun little wacky decks like this. Bring them to your locals and just having a heyday with them because they're fantastic. You'll also notice I didn't put Hunt for Spiders and Dragons in here because, again, I opted to run Flames Restored because I think this fits far better with the motif of the deck than Hunt for Spiders and Dragons did. I want to knock them out and I want to just beat them for it. I don't want to control them and techie and shut down their board. No, I just want to completely lock out their board 1 or 2 turns and just punch the snot out of them for it. And that's what I feel like this deck does a very good job of. So hopefully you enjoy the video, hopefully you enjoy the deck, and until next time, this is Toy.